Welcome to the bold analysis. The former Bomet governor, Isaac Ruto, who is the vice chair of the Judicial Service Commission, is actually at the center of what clearly looks like a state scheme. The moment Isaac Ruto was picked as the vice chair of the Judicial Service Commission, of course, questions were raised about it. There is something that happened during the formative days of Kenya Kwanza administration. William Ruto planted his cronies, or rather his henchmen, in very strategic institutions. I'm not a lawyer. I may not delve into the legal intrigues, the legal merits or demerits of a case. But you and I, even if we are not lawyers, but we can be able to differentiate between what is right and what is wrong within the precincts of common sense, So let us get into something here that I want us to pay attention to. Sometimes I don't really feel like defending Martha Koome, because I remember the day last year when Martha Koome made a mistake. She went to State House. In this podcast, my position was that whatever she thinks she's getting from State House, she's being slaughtered. She's being put there for slaughter. She's being fattened for slaughter. Because I've realized that in President Ruto's operation style is his way or no way. And it's my way or no way. Now, so let's get to this and see. I want to demonstrate to you how President Ruto, how Isaac Ruto has a serious boardroom fight with Martha Koome. And the blanket of going after the judges is something that is there. Supreme Court judges Martha Koome, Supreme Court judge and the President of Judiciary, Martha Koome, faced some challenges. This is the head of judiciary. She faced some allegations of juris pesa, of incompetence in her docket. And this was largely raised by Ahmed Nasir. And this is not something new. I remember there was a time that Maraga, during his tenure, he once told Ahmed Nasir that instead of talking in social media, bring the corruption allegations before the court so that the court can hear them. So it is not something that is new. So this campaign started by, Martha Koome needs to go. Then recently, some 3 petitioners, one is Raphael Tuju's farm, Nelson Harvey, and Ahmed Nasir. They launched a case against the judicial, they launched a petition to remove all the 7 Supreme Court judges. Remember, all the 7. So if that petition, they launched a petition in the Judicial Service Commission, which is the body that regulates. This is the body that punishes judges. This is the body that investigates the judges. From that body then would actually will propose a tribunal to investigate, and then the process takes course. Then Chief Justice Martha Koome, with all the 7 judges, sued them, of course, challenged that complaint in a high court, which is an inferior court, in Justice Lawrence Mugambi's desk, challenging, and this is what Martha Koome is saying. I want us to get this part. They're saying they're seeking an interpretation that is JSC allowed to admit an omnibus petition, a petition to remove the whole Supreme Court? Should such a petition be admitted? For example, it's like saying, I want us to remove the whole county assembly, or I want us to remove the whole cabinet. Like you want to impeach the whole cabinet. Can you go to parliament and say, I want to impeach the whole cabinet? Is that admissible? And she's saying that that petition is in a bad note. In fact, much as the petitioners are talking about they want to level allegations against those judges, the Supreme Court, it looks like a very well choreographed scheme to ensure that the Supreme Court doesn't exist. The Supreme Court doesn't exist. So I know that when Martha Koome is involved, a casual outlook will be some people that have, emotional battalion will run vitriols against Koome. But this petition looks and quacks like something that has been crafted just to finish and to wipe out the Supreme Court. So they've gone to court and they're seeking that. The second interpretation is this. When JSC starts a process of removing a judge, can that process be stopped by a court order? The process of removing a judge, when a petition has been lodged, is the High Court allowed to offer an injunction around it? And they're saying, and the petitioners are saying that kama koti inaweza simamisha, Kiswahili will make it right. Kama koti inaweza simamisha the committee that sits the JSC from investigating a judge, then the court, while the same court did not meddle, declined to stop the impeachment process in the National Assembly, then the same way they should not stop into that. Well, so Isaac Ruto, who is the vice chair in JSC is a commission. In that commission, the chairperson of the commission is the president of judiciary, is Martha Koome. But the commission has a vice chairperson, who is Isaac Ruto, resolved to defend its constitutional mandate. And Isaac Ruto has also now gone to court on behalf of JSC, saying that what is going to happen here, or what exactly is happening here, is that the process of removing Martha Koome within JSC should not be stopped by a court order. The decision set the precedent setting legal fight between Martha Koome, 7-bench judge, and the commission led by Ruto. So this is the chairperson of JSC going head-on with the vice chair of JSC. It is a murky political fight. At the center of this legal question raised by Supreme Court judges, know that JSC has an oversight role, and they're also asking, does Judicial Service Commission have an oversight role on Supreme Court? And does can AC entertain such a blanket petition against all the 7 judges? The judges are saying the provision is for removal of a judge. It was not removal of the judges. You cannot clamp them together. Now, one thing I would want to question is this. We have seen petitions in the past. When Nancy Baraza pinched that security guard in Village Market, the video went viral. She was removed from the court. She was the vice president of the court, Deputy Chief Justice. She was actually the Deputy Chief Justice, not Vice President, Deputy Chief Justice, but of course the Deputy President of the Court of Judiciary. It was a blanket charge against the single judge. And successfully, she was removed. Philip Tonoi. When Philip Tonoi faced the corruption allegation, of course, of receiving some money from Evans Odhiambo Kidero to that effect, in some favor, to grant some favor, he was removed. What is the question of all this is this? Have you compiled individual complaints against these individual judges? Or you've taken an incompetency as one word. For example, you go to a school and you say, the school has performed poorly. Then you're saying, I want to remove, there is one subject here that is not doing well, or probably the school has performed averagely. So you're saying, I want to remove the whole teachers, support staff, the whole teachers and the head teacher. When you remove them one day, will you have that school? Will that school operate tomorrow? That school will have to close for some time. Now, this is the whole argument. When you remove the Supreme Court, and within some time, I believe it will take another time, a minimum of 5 months, because there will be numerous court cases, people challenging decisions. Remember, this process is not a process that can end today. I can tell you, if that Supreme Court bench, they can be suspended. And after they're suspended, a tribunal is formed. They receive half of their salaries, of course. Then a tribunal is formed. Then that tribunal would actually recommend the removal of a judge of all of them. When the whole process is finished, they will start an appeal process against even the final decision. They will even start an appeal. The whole legal fight will drag for years and years. I can promise you, just like it has taken us years to constitute IBC, we might not have the Supreme Court. The moment we don't have the Supreme Court, we have very serious cases. I don't know whether now the Court of Appeal will become the highest court, and what so many legal cases that are going on. What end? Where will they end? There is even an impeachment case that is supposed to drag all the way to Supreme Court. Now we want to wipe out the whole Supreme Court. Now, when the case against Rigathi Gachagua, Parliament said, the High Court said that they did not have the power to stop Parliament from considering a petition for removal of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. And it definitely cannot have the power to stop the JSC from considering the petition for removal of 7 judges. I'm wondering, do you compare JSC, which is a commission, with the National Assembly, which is a second arm of government? There is this argument here, and I don't know whether Isaac Ruto should shake his head and let's get to understand it. So Isaac Ruto is saying that High Court did not stop Parliament from impeaching Rigathi because they said there is independence of that arm. So the same way, High Court should not stop JSC from hearing the cases of removing those judges. So Judicial Service Commission is like Parliamentary Service Commission. It's a commission. Well, I'm telling you, Kenya is a country of suckers. Martha Koome told the court that intended removal of the entire bench will create a constitutional crisis in the country, since the Constitution does not anticipate a circumstance the Constitution can operate without the Supreme Court, and that the petitions at JSC intend to create a constitutional vacuum and crisis in the country. I don't know whether the petitioners are also foreseeing this, or even the JSC, or whether Isaac Ruto. This is the question that President Ruto, his new brother Raila Odinga, Isaac Ruto, Wanjiku down there, me here, you there, everyone should ask. This is the question. Can we operate without a Supreme Court? It is part of our legal process. How many cases will then hang? Let's say we don't have that apex court. It decides the presidential elections. Can we go to elections without Supreme Court? The answer is no. If you look at some of the petitioners, Raphael Tuju, who just the other day was also in court, was also facing auctioneers. If you look at the characters facing it, pushing it, Isaac Ruto, who are intending to move in this process, they are a bit not keen to the fact that the petition, in the way it is, it has the prospect of crumbling down the whole Supreme Court. The boardroom fight between Isaac Ruto and Martha Koome today, and when Rigathi Gachagua mentioned that he will challenge the decision, he will actually come out and protest if Martha Koome is removed. The petition is not just against Martha Koome, it's against the Supreme Court. If there are things that should be raised, they need that awareness. And I think we'll need an input from the people of Kenya. You need an input from, in fact, you need an input from Parliament. You need some public participation. Someone wants to create a constitutional crisis, then to what end? Then we can say we can't go to an election without Supreme Court. Or what exactly? You can't seem to see that. She was backed by other 6 judges who argued that the commission lacks the requisite jurisdiction to hear and determine the complaints as drawn and filed on account of the express provisions of Article 168 of the Constitution. Now, the deep state is determined to the deadest. I was telling you that Martha Koome was requested. Today she met Murkomen. I saw a post from Didmas Baraza. And Baraza was asking Martha Koome that she must come out and denounce the statements from Rigathi Gachagua, disassociates with statements from Rigathi Gachagua, because failure to do so means that she supports the defense mechanism that Rigathi Gachagua seemed to have said, that if Martha Koome is removed, then it's going to call for a street protest. If the Raila handshake, if these are kind of things that will thrive in that Raila Ruto handshake, then I can tell you that handshake is dead on arrival. I know Raila Odinga has been both very bad, has had a very worst experience before that Supreme Court, but both worst and best. In 2017, they cancelled Uhuru Kenyatta's win. And then when there was time for a rerun, Raila didn't go for the rerun. In 2013, in both 2013 and 2022, Raila lost that Supreme Court. So, but of course, do we need it? Don't we need it? Don't we have that discussion and agree on what exactly is going on? There are things that President Ruto wants to achieve with crippling that Supreme Court. Number one, that constitutional crisis would actually delay the 2027 general election. Remotely, I'm a bit hesitant, but clearly, President Ruto is not willing to face the voters in 2027. He's not willing to face the voters. And I'm wondering, because by the time you don't have a Supreme Court, a case will be launched about the presidential term limit. Where will that case end to? How will you go to an election without Supreme Court? How are you going to litigate against those results? So there are so many other things that will be stuck when we don't have a Supreme Court. This fight, in some people's eyes, people see it as a plot to remove Martha Koome, as what Rigathi said, But it is not about Martha Koome. It is actually wiping out the whole Supreme Court. And that crisis is being cooked. And why not? If the Supreme Court is being wiped out, there is a decision on the impeachment that is going on. Rigathi Gachagua is saying, the case is still pending in court, I will still vie. The way Rigathi is saying, I will vie in 2027. If it is just about that case, he can still go and vie. So I think there is a lot that is happening behind the scene. And the country must be wary. Sometimes there are places you must say this is no, this is right. On this one, it must be well thought out. I think there is something that is not adding up and someone is not so clear with what he or she wants to achieve. Isaac Ruto should not accept to be used by President Ruto to cripple. That is not the kind of track record. That is not the kind of record that JSC can have in this Ruto's term. It is not something in a good note. Thank you.